Now to an issue that is causing great debate amongst the right. The Justice Department and the FBI have concluded they have no evidence that convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein was murdered or that he had a client list. They have released video that, if you ask me, raises more questions than it answers. The video is missing a full minute, Kosha. And frankly, few people are buying the claim that there were no powerful men who were benefiting from Epstein's activities.
This one, I think, is surprising a lot of people. I like Pan Bondi, so it's not to point the finger at her, but she hasn't helped in this, where she came out on camera a month ago and did this whole thing with right-leaning influencers were invited to the White House and they were given these binders, which was stuff we all knew. And then she says, no, I'm just reviewing other documents that are coming out. And they haven't. And even people
she said she had the list on her desk at one point.
Right. So she's on camera saying this. And then this is very anticlimactic. Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, these are figures that are very popular on the right. They're all backing this up. So in a void of information, which is what it is, it will lead to conspiracy theories, which may have truth to them, may not have truth to them, but it's all out there now in the zeitgeist where people just don't believe that any of these things are true, and there's all sorts of things swirling, and we'll see if this is corrected, if Trump can do anything with it.
We know powerful men were on that so-called Lolita Express. We know a number of them made repeated trips. We know Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, why is Maxwell in prison if there is no client list? Who was she trafficking these girls to? Because she's in prison for trafficking.
Right.
There are so many questions, and the missing minute out of this video, no clear explanation on why that is the case. And there was so much time for people within the FBI or the Justice Department to destroy evidence. And I think, again, that gives weight to people who've got conspiracy theories about what really happened.
Yep. Have they destroyed evidence? Is there incompetence where some other agency maybe has the evidence? Who knows? Is it that the people on this alleged list are so powerful globally that they really do wield a lot of pressure, and that pressure somehow has been brought to bear? Maybe some of the good guys have skeletons in their closet that they're being threatened will come out if they do this. Who knows? We can come up with things, but this is not helpful, because a lot of people had a lot of hope on transparency and declassification in this administration, and it is better than past administrations, but this is a big one, and it stinks to high heavens.
Absolutely. I don't think that can close the case yet. Now, to an issue that we love talking about because we miss Camala Harris. She gave us a lot of content, and apparently there's a new book that reveals she used profanity to convince dubious Democrat governors to stand with Joe Biden after that infamous debate performance against Donald Trump. She reportedly said, "This is about saving our effing democracy." And the comment is revealed in an upcoming book on how Trump retook the White House and the Democrats lost America. Kosha, it seems Kamala's blue talk there worked, because right after the meeting, New York Governor Kathy Hochul and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz appeared in the White House driveway, and they voiced their full support for the ailing president. Fascinating period in American history.
We do miss her, and maybe she did fall out of that coconut tree. She kept talking about her mother saying something along those lines. I find it hard to believe that her blue talk is the reason why those two lined up afterwards. It's probably because they're all about self-preservation and political expediency, and at that point in time, they probably thought the ship hasn't sailed yet. Maybe Lady Macbeth, as Jill Biden was referred to by many people, played a hand. Who knows what it was, but that was probably the reason. And then as the tide turned and people were throwing Joe Biden under the bus when it was just impossible to ignore, very quickly they and others shifted the side over to whatever they had to back at that point.
And you do wonder whether Tim Walz was rewarded. I mean, there was a few reasons why she selected him, all of them bad, it turned out, but maybe this was part of it, because, he fell into line very quickly. Now, Donald Trump has published letters to 14 nations with tariff deals. Japan and South Korea will have a tariff rate of 25% applied. Other nations will face higher tariff rates from August 1. These include Thailand and Cambodia with 36%, Serbia and Bangladesh 35%, Indonesia 32%, South Africa 30%. and Tunisia, Kazakhstan and Malaysia 25%. But Kosha, what we want to know is, when will we know here in Australia what our long-term deal is? We're a close ally, and so far there's been no meeting with our Prime Minister and no long-term trade deal negotiated.
It sounds like our Prime Minister is being definitely very reactive rather than proactive here. And so the default, most likely scenario, I think, will be the 10% baseline tariff will stand. Australia is not at risk for reciprocal tariffs because it's one of the few countries that has a trade surplus with the U.S. So that's what all those numbers that you just went through are about, because those countries we have huge trade deficits with.
Yeah.
Steel and aluminum, supposedly a 50% tariff is on the table. That's what Trump wants to do, because that sector, those two sectors in particular, are very important to him, and he really wants to revive them. It's his voting base. Last time around, Australia had a carve out for that, and it doesn't seem like that's on the table for now, at least for this one. So I think that's kind of where we're headed in terms of the impact. I think the U.S. is maybe 5 to 7% of exports of Australia, so it's not a huge thing directly, and that's probably why Albanese is kind of playing, reactionary rather than proactive.
Could we be getting, despite the fact that we're one of the very few countries with a trade surplus, could we be getting a less than ideal deal because of our government's reluctance to increase defence spending? We saw at NATO, Trump said that Spain was the only country that did not increase spending, and they were going to get a tariff deal that they did not like. They were going to pay one way or another. And I wonder whether that's in the thinking at all for the Trump administration when they come to a final figure for Australia.
I think it's a good point, because in general, that's another one of Trump's planks, that if the U.S. is underwriting security for the rest of the world, we want to get paid for it. So that Australia kind of falls within that. The other one he keeps pointing to is beef, where there's stricter standards. It's not direct tariffs, but the biosecurity laws over here make it very difficult for the U.S. to export beef. And so there's a few sort of pet peeve issues that the Trump administration has. And if they can't negotiate, I think the default will be along the lines of what I just said.
And just finally, we know the Prime Minister is meeting with Xi again. Is that a signal to the US that we are cozying up to China, perhaps, and we don't see China as a threat, as perhaps the US does?
I think because Australia is in a unique position, given its relationship with the US and with China, where it's the largest trading partner. And even if Australia won't be a direct beneficiary or won't be hit as directly because the U.S. is a small part of the exports, it will be indirectly, because as the U.S. goes to trade war with China, China's the biggest importer of Australian goods, there will be ripple effects around that. And I'm guessing that that's part of what is in this meeting, of signaling, this is a very important trade partner to us, and Australia is going to strengthen that as a way to somehow kind of shift the power dynamic between the U.S.
Kosha Gada, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.